Hello and welcome. This is a video trip report for the Middle Fork of the Salmon River from Boundary Creek to Cache Bar. We launched on June 10th, 2023, and the level was 4.6 on the gauge at Boundary Creek. We typically had really good weather. There was a few periods of rain. We had some evenings with really intense rain, but in general, we had good weather for the vast majority of the trip. The water was very cold, and so we had everybody in a wetsuit, and many people elected to also wear a splash jacket or a raincoat over the top of the wetsuit to help keep their core dry from splashes in the river. Pretty much everybody was comfortable in this the whole trip, and no one really felt like a dry suit was necessary for this particular trip. Now, different water levels, different weather could facilitate a dry suit making more sense. This is kind of one of those launch dates that's right on that borderline between, yeah, a dry suit is a really good idea, and no, a dry suit's not needed. Everything on our trip ran fairly smoothly, although we were grateful to have a satellite communicator because our truck battery was dead at the start of the trip, but thankfully we were able to communicate with that to our shuttle company, and they were able to know what the situation was, where the truck was stranded in the campground, and they were able to get that jump start. And they actually took it and had the battery checked at an auto parts shop and had the truck for us at the Takeout. Rubicon Outfitters was our shuttle company, and they were awesome to work with. Highly recommend them. We had 4 boats on this trip. This is a 16-foot Avon Pro. We had a 16-foot self-bailing Legacy. We had a 14-foot Avon Adventurer, and we had a 13-foot NRS Otter. One of the big questions coming into this trip was if the log jams were going to clear, and thankfully they did. Both the log jam at Ramshorn and the log jam at Velvet Falls both had flushed out, and the river had dropped from its peak to under 5 feet when we launched. We were really excited. The levels were phenomenal. This is where the old Ramshorn Rapid was. This is that choke point between those rocks. And the debris fan there on the left is where the log jam was. That debris fan was probably still 8 to 10 feet above the water level. And the rapid primarily runs down the right-hand side, but it ends at a very large hole. And so moving from center to left or moving from right to left to avoid that hole at the bottom, unless you want to square up and hit it, could be fine to hit. We tried to avoid as much of it as we could, but it is one, if you want to play the real conservative line, you can sneak around that shore and avoid the hole entirely. This is Hell's Half Mile, and it really didn't present any problems for us at this level. There wasn't a lot of exposed rocks to miss. There were a handful of small pour-overs to just kind of avoid, and we were able to kind of just pick our way down the river without needing to scout it. Most of the lines were pretty clear and pretty obvious. The left side of the island had nice lines, so I decided to take the left side. And at that point, the only real danger to look out for is just to make sure that you're moving away from the wall at the bottom. There is a hole at the bottom just off of that wall So trying to get over to the right side of that to avoid the worst part of the hole, and to just keep yourself from carrying too much momentum, because the water does push away from that wall. But if you're in a heavy boat and you move with too much momentum, you could push across into that. Velvet Falls is the next rapid, and this is actually the Spike Creek blowout. So that debris found on the left is left over from the Spike Creek blowout that dammed up Velvet Falls. The guides from Idaho Rafting Adventures, they were telling us that Velvet was a little bit different than it's been in the years past, particularly the entrance to Velvet. This was all of our first trip on this river, and so it was brand new to us regardless. So I can't compare to what Velvet was before, but the entrance definitely keeps you on your toes. There's a couple of holes to avoid. The current kind of moves you right to left, left to right, and then you want to get back to the right side behind the rock. So my goal was to come into this, try to stay in the middle, let the current and the laterals kind of push me into the center, but try to keep my stern faced towards the left side so that I could pull behind this rock. The laterals did kind of mess up my ferry angle a little bit, but there was enough slack water behind that I was able to pull back and drift around the left side of that hole. We unfortunately didn't get video of the chutes or powerhouse, so the next rapid we have here is Pistol. And at 4.4, this was our second day, so 4.4 was the gauge on this day. And the right side entrance was clear and open, and that was able to set us up really well to come down here, get our nose pointed at the wall, and then just pull away from it. And 3 of our 4 boats just lightly kissed that wall and bounced off of it. And it really wasn't too problematic. This is the Tappan series. At 4.4, Tappan Falls was certainly something to be aware of, although it was pretty easy to read and run from the boat. There were a couple nasty pour-overs up here at the top. Just some holes that you wouldn't want to go into, but weren't necessarily problematic at all. So here's Tappan Falls. And we're really just trying to let all the boats behind us know, hey, make your way to the right. And then there was a nice little tongue that you could square up for at the bottom of it. Pretty easy to read and run, especially if you knew it was coming. You could get yourself over there to the right. This is Cove Creek Rapid. We did stop and scout it because we were kind of on the right side, and our guidebook said that there was a log on the right side, so we wanted to kind of check that. We didn't see it, and at this level on this day, that right side was clear and open. So was the left side. Both sides were available. This is Redside, and at this level, that right-hand side was wide open down the right-hand side of Airplane Rock. So I just elected to take that full right side run, and it ended up being pretty easy and pretty smooth. The NRS boat over there ended up going far left down everything and went left of Sev's Rock at the bottom, and had a good line through that as well. This is Weber. And Weber at this level was a fun wave train that you just kind of kept everything squared up for. A lot of stuff was somewhat washed out. As we got down further down the river, it definitely felt like it was getting bigger. It felt more like a big water river. This was Rubber Rapid. Rubber was definitely the biggest hit on the river. I took it just straight down the middle. I didn't want to get surfed in sideways, so I just decided to square up and hit it. Every side creek was absolutely pumping in water, and so down here definitely felt pretty big. Our blue boat was just a little bit off the line. Being the smallest boat, it did end up flipping. We had actually gone with that blue boat, because it was new to us, to a reservoir to get the frame kind of all squared away, to get the where we wanted everything positioned squared away. And then we spent a couple days just practicing doing flips on it. So 3 of us had practiced flipping that boat, and we all had flip lines in our PFDs, and it all worked really smoothly. We kind of focused on getting the passengers into our raft, while one of my other buddies hopped over to the blue boat, and we were able to get that blue boat flipped over in about 3 minutes from when the flip happened. So being ready, being prepared, and being practiced really, really paid off. There's that big piece of patch of duct tape on the side of that boat, and that is because we had a patch that failed overnight at the put-in. We had redone a patch that I purchased that raft used. We'd redone that patch with Stabon, which is all I could get, and it failed pretty much the day we got it on the river. So at the top of the river, Boundary Creek, we had to redo the patch with tear aid, and then we just put duct tape over the top to kind of keep the tear aid from stretching out, and that made it through the entire trip. The tear aid was awesome. The duct tape was awesome. Very easy on river repair. This is Kramer Creek Rapid. The main salmon was really, really high. And having not run this, the guidebooks were talking about Kramer being really big. And it was ultimately nothing to really worry about at this level on this day, given what the flows were from the main salmon. And the boat ramp itself was pretty much all covered up. There was just a single lane at the top of the boat ramp that was left. But all in all, it was a wonderful trip. If you get the opportunity, it's a special place. I would highly recommend taking it. But it is very continuous, so plan, be safe, and be ready.